Imperfect. Tales of the Magi Saga by Andrew Dobell. Chapter 1. Loose Ends. I can't thank you enough for helping us out with Lucian, Amanda said, relaxing in an old, musty office chair that had seen better days, wearing her usual look of fitted jeans, sneakers, tank top, and a denim jacket, her long, straight, bright red hair falling over her shoulders. She smiled at the man sitting opposite her. The scion vampire smiled back at her briefly, revealing the row of misshaped fangs that filled his mouth, before letting the grin drop from his face. Shaun was one of the less lucky scions, having been permanently disfigured by his change into a vampire. He was hairless, with rough white skin stretched over a deformed skeleton. He had a prominent brow, strong cheekbones, pointed ears, and a ridge of bone that ran up and over the top of his head and down his spine. She could only see the skin on his head and hands, though, as he wore fitted black clothing, including leather trousers, tall black leather boots, tank top, and a denim jacket that had a goth feel to them. His bloodshot eyes stared back at her. He probably wasn't trying to be intimidating, but he was a scary person to look at. After what he did, he had it coming, frankly, Shaun said. He'd been working for Lucian, the self-styled nomad king of New York, Jamaican posse leader, criminal underworld boss, and Magus until his death over a month ago. Shaun had requested some privacy for a while after Lucian's death, but Amanda had been keen to get back in touch. She felt sure that Shaun was a good man. She wanted to help him and get him out of these sewers. The smell here was fairly horrific, but it was worse outside the doors to his lair. They sat in a small abandoned subway station that had been blocked off years ago and commandeered by Shaun for his own personal use. There was even an old rusted train car in here. His one surviving assistant, Vanessa, sat a short distance behind Shaun, watching the conversation. She was a slim girl wearing fitted clothing with her dark, almost black hair pulled into a ponytail. "I'm sorry you had that happen," Amanda said, feeling sorry for them both. Lucian had killed Shaun's other assistant, Gary, shortly before Amanda had returned the favor and killed Lucian. It had been the catalyst that had made Shaun offer help to Amanda in taking Lucian down. "I didn't know him, but I doubt he deserved to be killed like that." Shaun remained stoic, but Amanda could see the glistening of fresh tears in Vanessa's eyes. "He didn't," Shaun agreed. "My condolences." "Thank you," Shaun said. "So, was this a social call?" Amanda smiled at Shaun's direct approach. He didn't seem like he wanted to engage in meaningless chit-chat. "No," Amanda said. "I came here to make you an offer." "Oh, really?" Shaun asked. "I don't like seeing you living down here," she said. "I want to offer you a place in my coven and a new home in my house." "In your house?" Shaun asked. "It's a big one. Myself and a few friends already live there, but there's room for more." She could see the interest in Vanessa's expression. She already seemed interested, but Shaun had a more skeptical look about him. "You don't look keen," Amanda said. Well, it's just not quite as simple as that," he said. "Why not?" "I mean, don't misunderstand me. It's a generous offer, but I'm not exactly human-looking." Amanda smiled. "True, but I think I can get you something to help with that," Amanda said. She was already aware that although her magic could technically reshape his face into something more human, she knew that once the magic was finished, his scion blood would reassert itself, and within days would be back to his usual appearance. But that wasn't the only option. "That would be useful," Shaun admitted. "When you were working for Lucian, did he not try to help you with this?" "I believe he wanted to keep me where I was." "Figures," Amanda said. "But that's not the only problem." Shaun looked back towards Vanessa. Vanessa glanced back and pressed her lips into a thin smile before returning her attention to the floor. No, it's not, Vanessa said. Amanda raised her eyebrows. She wasn't sure what the problem was, but it did feel like they were throwing up obstacles and offering her excuses about why they couldn't come and live with her. Can I just check, would you like to come and live at mine and move out of here? Or am I barking up the wrong tree? No, Vanessa said, looking up. It sounds great. It's just that I came down here to escape. I was in trouble, and Shaun offered to help me. You're hiding? Yeah, I am, she said. From what? Maybe I can help you? She glanced up at Shaun as if she were looking for his support or permission to tell her what had happened to her. Shaun nodded, and Vanessa sat back in her chair. I got in trouble because of a hack, Vanessa began. I was living in a bedsit, kind of a group of digital criminals, I suppose, although we saw ourselves more like freedom fighters taking on the evil mega-corporations, I guess. How very cyberpunk of you, Amanda commented. Yeah, well, we went too far. We hacked an investment company who seemed to be involved in some dodgy stuff, and they somehow tracked it back to us. The commune was raided. Carson and I got out. Carson? Amanda asked. My mentor, I suppose, Vanessa said. He took me in, gave me a direction, a purpose. He just got ambitious, hacked the wrong people. I don't know if anyone else who lived there survived. So, how did you end up here? That was Gary. We'd met online and got talking before things went bad. I helped him with a couple of things. He helped me, you know. After the raid, when Carson and I were on the run, I was still talking to Gary. He was trying to help us. When I got separated from Carson, Gary offered to help. And that's how you ended up down here? Yeah, it was a bit of a shock at first, you know, meeting Shaun here and finding out about vampires and Magi and stuff, but it's cool. And you've been down here ever since. I go up to the streets, but I keep a low profile, stay off the radar. If the people who we hacked found out I was alive, I'm pretty sure they'd come after me again. So, who are these people you hacked? No idea. I wasn't really at the front end of that operation, so I don't know. And Carson wouldn't tell me. Kept saying it would put me at risk. So, what about this Carson? Do you know where he is? No idea. He's off the grid as far as I can tell. Shall we find out where he is? You can do that. Have you got something that used to be his? Well, yeah, I have this, Vanessa said, lifting the necklace she wore over her head. He gave it to me for my birthday. It's the only thing of his I have left. Amanda reached out and took the item from her. That should be perfect, she said as she closed her hand around the necklace and concentrated. She focused on Carson and on trying to reach out and find him as she pulled on the veil of essentia all around them. It was subtle magic and couldn't be rushed as she sent her mind out into the city. Slowly, a sense of him grew and pushed through into her mind. Carefully, she was able to follow the threads of that connection. Soon enough, she got a reasonably good sense of where Carson might be, and managed to narrow it down to an abandoned house that was being used as a bedsit by several people, including the one she felt sure was Carson. I think I've found him, Amanda said, opening her eyes and looking up at Vanessa. She made sure she had a good idea of where the house was in Queens and canceled the magic. Where is he? Vanessa asked. Chapter 2. Old Wounds. Amanda eyed the front of the building that she and Vanessa stood in front of. It was late morning, and they had decided to leave Shaun back at her house. Amanda could have placed an illusion over him to hide his features out here, but there was too much of a risk of it going wrong or slipping and revealing his true appearance. Plus, Shaun just did not feel comfortable going out in public until he had a better method of hiding his face. Amanda understood that and didn't argue with him. Besides, Amanda got the feeling that Carson might get skittish enough as it was without Shaun being there too. And anyway, Amanda felt sure she could handle it. The building that Carson was apparently living in was disused and not in good shape. The windows were boarded up, as was the front door. Amanda guessed there would be a back entrance somewhere that Carson was using, but she didn't feel much like trying to find it. She'd sent another set of senses into the building when they had first got here, and Amanda had quickly found Carson with them. She left them in there to keep an eye on him. Weaving another effect from the local essentia, Amanda damped the sound around her before walking up to the front door and giving it a good solid kick. Her enhanced strength allowed her to break open the barricade with a single kick, splintering and fracturing the wood and leaving a nice big hole they could step through. Her magic had worked, though, and not a sound reached the ears of Carson or anyone else in here. Stepping into the dim interior, Amanda canceled the silence magic and found herself standing in a hallway, lined with peeling wallpaper and covered in dirt and debris. It was a mess. Vanessa climbed through the hole behind her, and they moved forward as a pair. There were rooms off to the sides and a set of stairs leading up. Carson was upstairs working away on his laptop with his headphones on from what Amanda could see with her second set of senses, but there were other people in here other than Carson. In the room to her left, Amanda saw a guy apparently collapsed on the sofa with various drug paraphernalia scattered on the table before him. His eyes were wide, but it didn't really look like he was aware of the world around him. Another couple of steps forward, and Amanda looked to her right into another room to see a man in there smoking a cigarette. He did a double take on seeing Amanda, stubbed out his smoke, and moved towards them, apparently not very happy. "Hey, who are you? What are you doing in here?" he said, stepping into the hallway and looking at the mess Amanda had made of the front door. "What the fuck you do that for?" he asked. "No bother, young man. We're just here to see a friend," Amanda said, wondering if she could defuse the situation without the use of magic. "Oh yeah? Who's that then?" "Carson," Vanessa said. "Oh, it speaks. Well, I don't know any Carson, so fuck off out of here, all right?" "He's just upstairs," Amanda pressed on. "There's no Carson upstairs," the man said, clearly getting pissed off. "You probably know him by another name," Vanessa said. "Oh yeah? And what name's that?" "I don't know. Whatever he came up with," Vanessa answered. Amanda could see that wasn't going to go anywhere productive, and really didn't want to spend too long arguing with this guy, so she concentrated and worked a little magic, pressing her will into reality around her, and forcing the man to see their point of view and let them through. "Right. Well, if you know where he is, you can just head up there. Okay?" Amanda smiled. "Thanks," she said, and ushered Vanessa up the stairs first. Amanda followed close behind and directed her towards where Carson was. "What the? He changed his tune," Vanessa said. "That conversation was going nowhere, so I made some adjustments." "Of course," Vanessa answered. They pushed open a door that stood slightly ajar to find a room that probably couldn't have looked in a worse condition and remain habitable. There was a stained mattress in here with some dirty sheets on it, surrounded by empty food packets and cartons, as well as other detritus of day-to-day life. Meanwhile, sitting in one corner, fairly close to a window, was Carson. He had his laptop on his legs and was tapping away on there. Amanda noticed that some cables were snaking in through the window that were hooked up to the computer. She guessed they were stealing electricity and bandwidth for internet use. "I told you I was busy," Carson said, before looking up and coming up short when he saw Vanessa. He stared up at her for a moment in disbelief, before he pulled his earphones out. "Vanessa?" "That's me," she said. "Oh my God, you survived. How did you find me?" "I had some help," she said and glanced back at Amanda. Amanda smiled. "Who are you?" Carson asked, placing his laptop on one side and coming to his feet. She could hear the suspicion in his voice, but Amanda ignored it and chose to be as friendly as possible. given what he had been through, he had every right to be suspicious of her. She stepped forward and offered her hand. "Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a friend of Vanessa's." "Is that right?" he asked and glanced at Vanessa. She nodded to him. "She's one of the good guys and she wants to help." "Help? How can you help? No offense, but what can you do?" "She has a lot of friends with a lot of influence," Vanessa said. "Right, well, she'll need it. Give her a chance." "Why? What difference is one skinny redhead going to make? No offense." This last part he directed at Amanda. "None taken, but if you give me a chance, maybe we can sort this thing out," Amanda said. "Do it for me, please," Vanessa pleaded with him. Carson turned away, thinking it through. After a moment, he sighed and looked back at them. "Yeah, all right, fuck it. Why not? What you got in mind, Red? Because I would dearly like to kill the fuckers." Amanda wasn't keen on his tone or his pent-up aggression, but she understood where it came from, so his attitude would get a pass for the time being. "That really depends on who you've hacked. Tell me who's after you. You want me to just come out and tell you? I didn't tell Vanessa to try and keep her safe. If you know—" "Then I can help?" Amanda interrupted. "Don't be an idiot. Not telling Vanessa didn't really help at all, did it? They still came after her, so let's change tactics a little. Tell me who we're dealing with." Carson sighed. "Fuck it. Okay, we hacked Willis Financial. They're an investment company and also do a load of corporate takeovers and shit before selling these assets on. They're known for being aggressive." "They sound just grand," Amanda joked. "They don't mess about, these guys. They have ties to one of the 5 families." "The Mafia?" "The Cosa Nostra, yes. I think they're one of the mob's rackets." "Do you know which made man is their contact?" "Yeah, a guy called Jimmy Ferraro, but he wasn't the one who was coming after us. That was a team run by the CEO, Brandon Willis, the fucker." "Not your favorite person in the world, then?" Amanda quipped. "I'll kill the little shit if I ever get my hands on him," Carson said. Amanda could see the fire behind his eyes and felt sure that he actually would kill the man if he ever managed to confront him. "To be sure. Well, let me see what I can do. I'm pretty sure I can stop them from hunting you down." "If you say so," Carson said, sounding a little flippant. It was as if he didn't think it could work. "Amanda knows what she's doing. You've just got to trust her," Vanessa said. "I've been on the run for over a year, Nessie. Every time I've trusted someone, I've had to disappear all over again." "Not this time," Vanessa said. "I'll believe it when I see it," he answered. "Do you know for sure they're still interested in you both?" "When was the last time they came for you?" Amanda asked. "Months ago, Red, but I guarantee you they'll still be after me." "I think we need to test that out before I go knocking down some doors," Amanda said, not keen on the idea of going storming into a building to threaten a CEO if they had no further interest in either of these two. "Okay, sure. Then why not tip them off as to my whereabouts? There's a reward out for me, or at least there was in those early days. Then we'll see if they turn up. If they do, I can kick Brandon's ass." "We're not kicking anyone's arse right now. I just want to see if they're still interested in you. So, can we clear this building out and bring them here? We'll watch from a nearby building and see who turns up." "I can clear it out. Shouldn't be too difficult," Brandon said. "Okay, let's do this. We'll help you get them out and then retreat to a safe distance before I send them the tip-off." "It's been what? Over an hour now?" Carson said. Amanda sat on the edge of the rooftop on a small, knee-high wall. From where she was, she had a reasonably good view of the house they had found Carson in a few hours previous. As it had turned out, it was not too difficult to get the other squatters out the building. You only had to hint that the police were on their way to raid it, and everyone suddenly had somewhere else they had to be. They checked it through a couple of times to make sure there was nothing incriminating in the building before retreating here. Vanessa had gone to the nearby shop to pick up a few things to eat, leaving Amanda and Carson on watch. "Yeah, I reported you an hour ago," Amanda said. "What's taking them so long?" "I've no idea," Amanda answered honestly. "But an hour's not that long. Depends on what they're planning to do, if anything." "I suppose so. You know, they might have forgotten about you. They might not be interested in you anymore," Amanda suggested. "I doubt it," Carson answered her. "Hey guys, I got some food," Vanessa called out as she appeared on the rooftop again from the fire escape they had used to get up here. "You took your time?" Amanda said. "Sorry. There was a queue at the deli," she said, as she stepped up to Amanda and offered her the sandwich she had ordered. "Thanks," she said, taking it as Vanessa moved on to Carson. He still had his laptop on his lap and closed it to take the food from Vanessa. "So, any movement?" Vanessa asked. "Nothing yet," Amanda said. "How long is this going to take?" "I was just talking to Carson about that," Amanda said. "The answer is, we don't know. I'm hoping they don't turn up at all and we can all just go on with our lives, really." "Fat chance of that," Carson said. Vanessa gave Amanda a look. Amanda raised her eyebrows in return. Carson seemed a little angry, as he had every right to be, of course, given that this Willis Financial, or at least the mercenary group they used, had killed some of his friends. They sat quietly, eating their food. Afterwards, Vanessa disappeared to use the bathroom, and then, a short time after that, once Vanessa had returned, so did Carson. Amanda sat tight the whole time, watching the house just 2 blocks away, but so far it was quiet. "He's angrier than I remember him," Vanessa said. "He's been dealing with a lot," Amanda said. "I'm not surprised. He's had his life taken away, his friends killed. I know he brought it on himself by hacking these guys, which is illegal, but he doesn't deserve to be hunted like an animal by a private security force." "No, he doesn't. But you're right. I've not been thinking about what he's had to endure. I suppose I got lucky, really." "Perhaps in some ways. You've had your own issues to deal with, though." Vanessa nodded. "I certainly have," she said. Amanda turned and looked back at the house to see a van pull up outside and several men in black jump out carrying guns. They moved in towards the house. "Ooh, here we go," Amanda said. "Looks like Carson was right. They are still interested in you guys after all." "I knew they would be," Vanessa said. Amanda watched them breach the door and head inside. She didn't need to do anything else as the test was actually complete, but it was interesting to watch what happened. Moments passed, and suddenly Amanda heard the distinct popping of rapid gunfire coming from that direction. She frowned. No one should be firing over there. It fell silent again, but the gunshots had been quite clear, and she felt sure they'd come from the house. "Did they just shoot a gun?" "I think they did," Amanda said. "Did we leave anyone in there?" "I'm certain we didn't." "Then who are they?" Vanessa said, looking around the rooftop. Her head whipped back to Amanda, her eyes wide. "You don't think—" "Shite," Amanda said to herself. Carson, the idiot. He was certainly angry enough to try something stupid like this. Amanda looked back towards the house to see the men hustling out of it. "They're in a rush," Amanda said to herself before looking back to Vanessa. "I'll port us over there." "Ah, crap, okay, sure," she said, taking a breath and holding it. Amanda knew Vanessa wasn't a fan of porting. It was disorientating and could make you feel quite sick if you didn't like it. Weaving her magic, Amanda ported herself and Vanessa into the house with a whip-crack of displaced air. They'd appeared upstairs in the house, in Carson's room, but it was empty. Vanessa let out a breath and looked a little queasy. Outside, the wheels of the van squealed as the driver gunned its engine and accelerated away. "Come on, they're gone. Let's find him," Amanda said, and darted from the room. It didn't take long for them to find Carson. He was downstairs, laid out on the kitchen floor, not too far from the back door he'd obviously used to get in here. Bullet wounds riddled his torso, and he was quite dead. He had a gun in his hand, and there were other blood splatters that Amanda felt sure weren't his. "Looks like he didn't go down without a fight," Amanda said as Vanessa crouched next to him. "I think he was desperate for revenge," Vanessa said. "So it seems. But we did learn one thing. We need to deal with this CEO, as I doubt he's going to let you, the last loose end, off the hook now." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to go and have a friendly chat with him," she said, smiling. Chapter 3. Tie It Off. Amanda sipped on her cup of coffee a little way up the street from the New York offices of Willis Financial. Her attention focused on her second set of senses that she had placed in the office of Brandon Willis. He'd been working all day, meeting people, writing emails, and being chauvinistic to his secretary. Nothing she didn't expect, really. She was a little surprised that the blonde secretary put up with the pats on her bum. But then, maybe he was paying her a lot, or there was more going on there than she knew. She found it quite distasteful, whatever it was. As she watched and listened through the day, pretending to read the paper or watch the people walk past her, she'd heard him say that he had a meeting with Mr. Ferraro later today, around now, in fact. It was swiftly moving towards evening time with people already making their way home. A perfect time for a meeting with the mafia, she guessed. She didn't wait much longer before the door to his office opened and mafia made man Jimmy Ferraro walked in. He was a short guy with dark hair wearing a suit. Nothing noteworthy about him at all, really. His companion, however, who Amanda guessed was some kind of bodyguard, was another matter. He was big and brooding and was clearly taking his job seriously. Amanda had taken Vanessa back to her house before coming here. There was no need for her to come on this part of the mission. It would be dangerous, and she wasn't sure how useful Vanessa would be. Amanda finished her drink, left some money on the table, and walked up the street towards the office block where Willis was located. She walked into the building without any trouble and made her way to the elevator, knowing that Willis's offices were on the 25th floor. There were other people in the lift with her, but she was the only one to exit on this floor. Having sent her senses in and around here earlier, she knew exactly where Brandon's office was and how to get there. She walked through the lobby and saw the reception area through some glass doors. They were locked, but with little more than a thought, the bolt slid back without her breaking stride, allowing her to walk straight through towards reception. A lady behind a desk looked up and frowned. She would probably normally have to press a button to open that door, and was likely confused as to how Amanda had bypassed it. Her bewilderment gave Amanda a small thrill. "Hi." The woman recovered. "Welcome to Willis Financial. How may I help?" Hey, you can't go through there," she said as Amanda pointedly ignored her and walked past the desk towards the doors beyond. "Hey, come back. You can't get through. It's..." Amanda worked her magic once more, and the door unlocked, allowing Amanda to open it without trouble. She glanced back once to the slack-jawed receptionist with a cheeky smile before making her way towards Brandon's office. She was probably calling security now, which was fine with her, and sure enough, she hadn't walked far before a couple of men in dark blue uniforms walked around the corner. One of them was holding a finger to his ear. "Oh, we got her. One moment," the man said into his radio before addressing Amanda. "Okay, miss. Let's not have any trouble. Please make your way back towards the reception." "Hey guys, what's the crack?" she said. "Now let's not be silly here." "We don't want to hurt you, miss." "I don't think there's any danger of that," Amanda said as the men approached. The lead guy had his hands out as if he was trying to guide her, but the man behind had his hand on his gun, which was still in his hip holster. Amanda just stood there, looking at them, making no move to do as they asked. The lead man walked up to her and stopped. "Miss, please, turn around and walk back to the reception. If you don't, I will use physical force. That's my last warning." "Understood," Amanda said, but didn't move. The man looked somewhat dismayed and glanced back at his partner before looking back to Amanda. "Okay, I warned you," he said, and reached for her. Amanda grabbed his hand and twisted it in just the right way. The man fell to the floor with a yelp, still in Amanda's grip. The second guy immediately pulled his gun and moved to point it at Amanda. Keeping hold of the first man's hand, she ducked forward and kicked the gun from the second guard's grasp. She knew she was moving quicker than they were able to truly follow, allowing her to catch them unawares as she executed her moves. The gun went spinning away to land somewhere amidst the deserted desks in this modern open-plan office. It was after 5:30, and most people had left for the night. The guard looked a little stunned to see his weapon go cartwheeling out of his hand before looking back at Amanda. "It's nothing personal, you understand," she said, before she punched him, knocking him into the wall and unconsciousness. Turning to look at the man she still held the hand of, she twisted his arm a little more and heard the crack of his bones. The man screamed briefly before she landed another punch on him, knocking him out cold, too. She left them there. She didn't want to really hurt them as they were just security guards and might not know anything about what some aspects of this business actually did. In fact, she guessed that most of the people who worked here didn't. Moving on, she soon reached the office of Brandon Willis to find the secretary sitting outside, staring at her computer screen while resting her chin in one hand. She looked bored. Amanda moved towards the door beside the secretary that led to Mr. Willis's office, ignoring the girl. She looked up, realized where Amanda was going, and got to her feet. "Excuse me, miss," she said, rushing to intercept Amanda, but she was a second or so too late. Amanda stepped into the office as the secretary attempted to stop her. The girl was nowhere near Amanda's strength, though, and it was a futile effort. "I'm sorry, sir, she was too quick," the blonde said to Mr. Willis, who looked up with a look of surprise and incredulity plastered to his face. "Who's this?" the CEO asked from the comfy seat he sat in towards the left side of the office. Jimmy was sat there too, his bodyguard standing close by. "I've no idea," his secretary said. "I just wanted to have a chat," Amanda said. "What? Who do you think you are? Get out," Brandon said. "I don't think so," Amanda said. "Call security," Brandon said to his secretary, who nodded and left the room. Amanda smiled thinly. "They might take a while to respond," Amanda said. "Who the hell are you?" "Doesn't matter who I am," Amanda answered. "I'm just here to deliver a message and make sure you do as I ask." "Oh, really? Is that right?" "Aye, to be sure," she said, watching as the CEO moved over to his desk and quickly rummaged around before pulling out a gun. Amanda sighed. Why did it always end up in a fight like this? With a quick working of magic, she dissolved the bullets in the gun to nothing, leaving it empty. "I think you should leave," Brandon said. "Mr. Willis, would you prefer for my man here to take care of this intrusion for you?" Brandon glanced over at the mafiosi and then back at Amanda with a smirk on his face. The security team aren't answering, sir," the secretary said from outside the room. "That's fine, Stephanie. Don't worry about it. You can go home for the night," Brandon said. Okay, thanks," she said. And Amanda heard her quickly move away from the scene of the confrontation. "Jimmy, if Solomon would like to deal with our visitor, then please, go ahead," the CEO said. "It would be his pleasure, I'm sure," Jimmy answered before looking up at his bodyguard. "Would you mind?" "With pleasure, sir," the big man said. Amanda looked over and turned more fully to face him, and suddenly noticed that there was more to this bodyguard than met the eye. She could see the knot of essentia within him. He wasn't a magus, though, so Amanda guessed she was about to face down a scion. She wondered if he'd show his true self. She decided to give the scion a taste of what he was about to let himself in for, and sent a blast of essentia at the creature. The energy flared golden yellow in Amanda's magical sight, but would be invisible to the two humans in here, and maybe to the scion as well. The strike hit home, and Solomon paused and frowned at her. Then he smiled and stepped forward. "So it's like that, is it, witch?" Amanda smiled back. The man suddenly grew in size as fur sprouted all over his body, which was filling out and changing shape. Bones cracked as the werewolf roared, and then a second later, leapt at her. Amanda dodged right as she enacted the multitasking effect and split her mind into three. She blasted him with an essentia strike again, while also throwing an arc of lightning at the creature. Boom! The flash of light lit up the office and sent Solomon hurtling back into the far wall with a crunch. The were-creature howled as it fell to the floor. Amanda sent strike after strike of magical energy at the thing, wearing down its aegis as it got back up, its singed fur smoking from the electrical burn. A series of ear-splitting gunshots filled the room as the mafia man fired at her. The bullets pinged off Amanda's aegis and buried themselves in the wall behind her. She unleashed a hammer blow of kinetic energy that sent him crashing into the tables and chairs with a yell. The werewolf dove at her from across the room. Amanda reacted on pure instinct, letting the martial arts training that Gentle Water had been drilling into her take over. She used the scion's weight against him, working with his momentum and rolling back before kicking out and loosing another essentia blast through her foot that flared brightly in her vision. The scion went flying and crunched into the back wall as Amanda rolled to her feet a short distance from the scion. She could see his natural aegis faltering, and sent another essentia strike at him, destroying his aegis, followed by a second lightning bolt that smashed into the now unshielded scion. The smoke cleared, and the blackened, cooked skin of the scion was clear to see. It lay there unmoving, and Amanda could no longer make out a heartbeat with her enhanced senses or magical sight. She turned to see Brandon standing behind his desk, holding the gun in both hands. He was trying to keep the weapon steady, but his body was shaking uncontrollably. She took a step forward, and he started to madly pull the trigger, but it was empty. Click, click, click. Amanda smiled. "Ready to talk?" What do you want to talk about?" Brandon asked, his voice shaking with terror. Amanda approached Brandon's desk. "You had someone killed today." "What?" "Carson Rye, the hacker, you had him killed today," she said. She'd been watching Jimmy with her second set of senses that she had not yet canceled, and knew he was up and circling around behind her as she spoke, a knife in his hand. "What of it?" Brandon asked, clearly trying to stall for time. "I'm not very happy about it, and as a friend of Vanessa, the girl you're also after for the same reason, I've come here to make sure you drop this vendetta." Jimmy lunged at her. She turned, grabbed the hand that was holding the blade and pulled him forward, smashing his face into the front of the desk. Jimmy groaned in pain. Amanda lifted him up and smashed him back down onto the top of the table before twisting his wrist with her other hand. A bone cracked, and he dropped the blade with a whimper. "Do I need to kill you too, you Egypt?" she asked the mobster. Jimmy shook his head wildly. "And are you going to do as I ask and leave Vanessa alone from now on?" Jimmy nodded. Amanda looked up at Brandon. "And what about you? Or do I have to come over there and convince you too?" Brandon dropped the gun and raised his hands. No, you don't. I'll call off the hunt for her." "Grand, because if you don't, I'll be back, and I'll not just hurt you, I'll ruin you as well. Your life won't be worth living if I see even a hint of you anywhere near her, understand?" Brandon nodded vigorously. "Excellent. I'm glad we could come to an understanding about this," she said with a smile as she let go of Jimmy's broken wrist. They were clearly aware of the supernatural, at least to some extent, so Amanda decided to leave with some flair and worked her magic once more, porting herself back to her house. It had been a few weeks since the confrontation at Willis Financial, and Amanda had checked up on Brandon a couple of times since, even showing her face to him once or twice, just to let him know she was watching. She felt entirely confident he'd called off the hunt for Vanessa now, though, and had confirmed it in as many ways as she was able. Vanessa and Shaun had moved into her house, and Amanda had just finished creating their new workspace for them with the aid of the legacy Magi. She led Shaun and Vanessa down into the bright, clean basement and over to the frosted glass doors in one wall. She opened one of them and urged the pair to follow her in. They found themselves in a good-sized room. To her left were some magically enhanced computers, running at speeds well in excess of what mundane computers could do. To her right, the wall was covered in monitors and there were several workstations set up, while at the back of the room was a desk with 3 more screens on top of it. "Wow, this is incredible," Vanessa said. "This will do nicely," Shaun said, standing there with his hands on his hips. "And as promised," Amanda said, turning to him. She handed him an amulet that was glowing brightly in Amanda's magical sight. "Wear it, and by thinking about what you want to look like, the item will hide your appearance with an illusion. You need to actively think about it to enact it and cancel it when you're wearing it, okay?" "Thank you, this is great," Shaun said, smiling. She would never get used to that fang-filled grin of his. "Yeah, seriously, this is amazing," Vanessa said. "I can't ever thank you enough." Amanda merely smiled, feeling a touch uncomfortable with their admiration. She only hoped that they both settled into life here okay, because she was sure they would be valuable members of her coven. The end. This has been Hack Imperfect, a Magi Saga story by Andrew Dobell. You can find out more about the Magi Saga and the author's other stories by going to his website at andrewdobellauthor.com.